to the Quiet Riot Show, a show about men's mental health. I don't know what episode number this is because we haven't picked them yet.
Yep.
But we're just going to talk and have an open conversation. We have a guest with us who I'll introduce right away. And we discuss men's mental health and wins and losses and successes and tips and tricks. And everybody's got their own path and experience with it. And our guest, I'm sure, has the same today. So just a reminder, we are not professionals in this realm. We're all pros in our own way, and pros especially in our guest today. This is just our stories and our paths, and if you pick something out of that is helpful or you take away from that, that's amazing. I've taken something away from every guest we've had on this show,
so
and so
far,
it's
absolutely.
been such a great experience for me personally. And I'd like to welcome our guest today, a professional hockey player, Lee Goren, and we're going to have a conversation with him about, who knows, all kinds of things. And I'm sure with such a colorful history in professional sports, there's probably a lot to say and a lot of experience that you've had in the realm of both being a male in the world and being a male who has had a lot of change and a lot of struggle and a lot of really successful things. And so we can't wait to hear about that. So thank you for being here, Lee.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you.
One of the things we do on this show is we do a check-in. It's our first segment. So how it works is I do this with my wife. At any given random time, we ask each other, what number are you? And it gives us a real good gauge on where we're at personally and with each other that day or that time, that moment. So I'll check in with Tommy here. You'll kind of get the grasp on it. It's a 1 to 10 system. Tommy, what number are you today?
So I kind of mentioned this already. Today I'm a 5-6.
Okay.
The day's getting better, and I've been really exhausted all week, and doing some housework, and my body's failing a little bit. So I've been trying to recover from a long time injury. I got to go actually see our friend Dr. White to get some adjustment on my back, but yeah, it's been tough and mentally exhausted, but powering through it.
Are you sleeping enough?
No, not at all. I mean, last night I slept about 8 hours finally, but like during the week I sleep 3 to 4 hours. Yeah, so catches up with me. Yeah.
Right.
How about yourself?
I'm like a 7.
Okay.
Yeah, 7's kind of my average number, and I'm a 7. I'm feeling pretty good. I had a stressful and pretty intense week, but if you can find success and positive and among the stress and success and celebrate your successes, I've had a good week of doing that. And so it's good.
I'm glad actually you maybe you can talk about later on how people celebrate successes.
Sure.
Yeah, like because success means it's such a wide spectrum of like what really a success is. Is it financial? Is it you're just happy with your family, right? Like, so maybe we can kind of discuss that a little bit.
It's been a big week of focusing on small wins and celebrating small wins. And Lee, you don't know this, but you're about to find out. I've had a friend of mine staying with me who's going through a pretty intense personal crisis. And so it was just better that he stay somewhere not alone in his apartment. And so it's been a week of focusing on tiny increments of wins. And so it's in helping him see those. It's been a conversation that I've also realized my own. And so it's been a pretty intense but interesting week. And you can turn that into celebrating small wins can be what gets you through the week or the day or the hour or whatever it is. So it's been an interesting week in that sense.
So, Lee, if you were to check in today, and this could be based on today, this week, this month, from 1 to 10, 1 being shitty, 10 being, everything's great.
Right now, today, probably a 10. I got to watch my youngest son play lacrosse this morning, and he's enjoying doing that. And then we got to go to church, and I got my oldest son cutting the grass, so it's a blast to have somebody doing the grass other than me. So
nice.
I know that's the point of having kids, right?
Yes. No, I'm at my job work where we've got some struggles there. My weeks are tough. I run a hockey camp in the summer that starts a week from tomorrow, so a lot of tension and anxiety and different things are coming down the pipeline for that. But lots of amazing things in my world and in my life with my family and my career and my new career. Obviously, it's not new, but 10 years out of hockey and overall, I bet you I'm an 8 or a 9 most days.
Okay,
Takes
that's awesome.
Something pretty drastic, pretty shitty to get me out of feeling good. I always, whenever anybody asks me how I'm doing, it's automatic. I'm doing great. I'm doing awesome, and that's just a mindset that I've always had. And through the ups and downs of a pro career, ups and downs of life, it's almost one of those deals. Fake it till you make it for me. Mm-hmm. In anything that you do. And again, you have that right mindset. You're able to feel like that and feel good about yourself, feel good about your family, feel good about your situation. And obviously I take a lot of pride in how I feel and how my family feels and want to make sure we're all doing well.
That's awesome. So, I mean, you mentioned fake it till you make it, but I think many times people might get a bad idea about that, saying like, "Oh, well, you're just faking it, right?" But at the end of the day, if you force yourself to look at things positively, eventually that will kind of become the norm, right?
I think for some people, yeah, I think people that are dealing with the mental health part of it, they can fake it, but I'm not sure if they have it in their world, in their mind. Like I have a young son, 12 years old, that deals with this, and a lot, like you're saying, Tim, is like, he says things that throw me and my wife for a loop, right? Like he's, and it's difficult conversations. There's a lot of difficult things that go into it, but we're not asking him to fake anything. We want him to be as honest and upfront as possible. I've been fortunate in my world. My wife deals with anxiety and stuff. I don't know if I've ever had anxiety thoughts or been anxious at all. I've always just kind of been like fun loving and go with the punches. And do I get pissed off? Yeah, I get pissed off. I might have a little anger issue now and then, but at the end of the day, like as far as like that stuff, I've been really fortunate. And again, I'm able to, get through the days and make sure that I feel the way I need to feel. Like, I had a sports psychologist, and this was one of the guys, and I try to teach it to the kids that I coach hockey to, and even my kids. Saul Miller is his name. We're going to steal Saul's idea, but there's 10,000 thoughts that go through your mind a day, I think is what he said. 10,000 different thoughts that come through your mind. And when he was saying, in anything that you're doing, it's like a TV channel. We get to decide what's on that TV channel. We get to determine what we think about. So if you're thinking, oh shit, I'm a shitty hockey player, I just made the worst play, I turned the puck over, it's in the back of my net, I got to come back to the bench. I got to turn the channel as quickly as I can. Hey, I live it. I saw it. Let's not do it again. I turn the channel and then, get those positive thoughts going. Hey, that's not who I am as a hockey player. That's not who I am as a human being. Whatever it is, I treat my wife poorly, say something dumb to a friend, negative to my kids. That's not me. That's not who I want to be. And I get an opportunity to change my channel. And when I was playing in Switzerland and Saul came into Bern and he shared that with us, that's something that I've taken and tried to use to the best of my ability and pass on to people. My sons play baseball, they play lacrosse, hockey, being able to share those thoughts with young baseball players when they think they should get a hit every time they step up to the plate. When a career Hall of Famer is a 300 batter who fails 70% of the time, and you think you're going to get a hit every time, change the channel. Think about the good things. Think about those good at bats. Think about that great shot you had, not the one that you fanned on. So just stuff like that. It's great.
It's such a mental, like that's the big part. And we've only spoken to one other former professional athlete on the show so far.
We can mention it because I'm pretty sure
he's a Winnipeg man. He'll know.
And Lee, Troy Westwood.
Oh, you consider him a professional athlete? Like, come on.
And we know he's just a kicker. But.
Yeah.
So growing up in Winnipeg, I got to watch Westy play football. Him and Bob Cameron with the Bombers. So I love Westy, but we'll sit at Glenn's, we'll play pool, and everybody piles on Troy. But
just ripping on him. Yeah. That's funny. So take us back a little bit for those of the listeners and us that don't know the whole story. Do you want to give us a bit of a rundown of your path? And so you played professional hockey for a lot of different places, in a lot of places all over the world. And so that experience and the experiences that have come from that have probably been unbelievably significant. And I'm assuming that started at a very young age. Do you have sort of a pedigree in your family of professional sports?
No.
You just kind of decided you wanted to do it. Like, give us a little bit of the first phase of all that.
Well, it's the whole thing is just kind of weird. Like, I'm 6'3", 220 pounds, 212 pounds when I played the game. You know, my mom is, I think, 5'7", 5'8". My dad might be 5'10". So somehow, I don't know if I'm the milkman's kid or whatever, but I grew up, we lived on Henderson Highway in Winnipeg and Bronx Park. We lived about 4 doors down from Bronx Park. And I just remember, earliest days I remember is, you know, my parents would tie my skates at the back door and I would crawl down the back lane to Bronx and I'd skate at Bronx Park till literally they'd turn the lights off. And I knew that I wasn't going to crawl home in the dark, so I just walk on the concrete home and I'd have to get my skates sharpened the next day. But I remember doing that. And for as long as I can remember, my dad was always a coach. He coached Junior B and Junior A in Manitoba. He was heavily involved in baseball. So I played growing up all the time, and I played all the sports. Like, this is what frustrates me right now. I live in Minnesota, and kids can't play all the sports. You know, you gotta do one or you gotta do two. You can't, like, I grew up, I played football, baseball, hockey, basketball, volleyball. I played everything, golf, anything that I could get my hands on, I just did. And it just rounded you out as an athlete. And as you get older, then you could start to specialize in stuff like that. But even into high school, I played baseball with my high school team, played basketball when I could, started taking up tennis and everything, and continued played football and all this stuff. But I left home. My birthday's in December, so I'm one of those outliers. If you guys ever read the Outlier book, if you look at all these national teams and stuff, everybody that's born in the first 4 months of the year, the 100,000 hour, 10,000 hour practice rule. I was the guy that grew up the smallest, because again, in Canada, you play in your birth year. And so I was a 1977 birth year, and I was 5 days away from being a 78. Mm-hmm. So I was literally, some guys 9, 10, 11 months younger than some of these guys that I was competing against. And to boot, growing up, I was always the smallest guy. Yeah. And I had to work my ass off. And my dad coached all the teams. And again, I think that I made a lot of those teams, the higher end teams, because my dad might have been the coach. I don't think I was skilled enough or good enough to play there, not big enough, all that stuff. And it bugged the shit out of me. It really did, because I wasn't good enough. And then he would sit me on the end of the bench and I'd watch hockey. And I'm like, why don't I just go play for the B team? And then I can play a lot. But I had to work my ass off to keep up with all these guys. And it's funny, when I go back to Winnipeg now, I run into these guys, and with the career I had, there's some guys that I'd like to fucking strangle because they were assholes. Yeah. But again, it's like, I don't. And it's, I got in ninth grade, I grew 6 inches in 1 year. Holy and all shit. Of a sudden I became a relevant hockey player because I had to work so hard, and now I had size. And in ninth grade, if you told me that I was even going to play junior hockey, I probably would have laughed at you, because I got cut from my midget AAA team. Yeah. Had to play high school for a year. And as you guys know, high school in Winnipeg, it's not the top of the world. So ended up playing 1 year of high school hockey at Vincent Massey, and then went back to midgets for my second year, made the team, graduated high school as a 17-year-old, and I left home at that point in time and really never came back. Went to Saskatoon, spent some time in Saskatoon, left Saskatoon, and ended up landed in Minot, North Dakota, playing in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. And I played the rest of that year and received a full scholarship to University of North Dakota. Played there for 4 years, won 2 national championships, was All-American, led the country in goal scoring my senior year. After my freshman year, I was drafted by Boston. And after my junior year, Boston wanted me to come out and sign. And, assuming that, I would have been playing in the minors that following year, unless I did really something special in tryouts or in camp. But decided I was going to go back, get my degree, finish school, have another year of college hockey, and we ended up winning a national championship that year, in a year where we probably shouldn't have won it. And I was fortunate enough to play some great players. Had a year where I led the country in goal scoring, and everything that could have landed in place. And so yeah, it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Was coming back for that senior year. My dad really wanted me to leave and go play, and I was just like, I don't know if I'm ready. And I talked to my coach, and Dean Blaze, who is a real mentor to me and somebody I really, really respect. And he was like, I don't think you're ready. And on the other side of the coin, we had a junior after we won national championship that year that went in, and he was a guy that was ready to go turn pro, and he ended up signing with New Jersey and turning pro after his junior year. So he was extremely honest with all of us as players, and that weighed on me. So ended up leaving after my senior year, got my degree, and then started my pro career. Played parts of 3 years in Boston with the Bruins. Had 3 very enjoyable years. I was up and down in the NHL and the minors. Signed a year in Florida at that time in 2003, 2004, I think it was. They were a fucking disaster. It was a dumpster fire. And I signed a 2-year deal, and my second year was a one-way contract in the NHL. And I declined it because I didn't want to go back. Mm-hmm. And I ended up signing with the Vancouver Canucks, and their farm team was in Manitoba, and the lockout happened. One of the greatest things that happened in my career was I got to play parts of 3 years in my hometown of Winnipeg. So, and have some success there. I had really good years. One year we went to the semifinal. We had some really, really great teams, got to play some really, really incredible men there. We lost a really great human being in Rick Rippon. He was one of my teammates and really good friends. And we lost, and Bell talks and all the stuff that, unfortunately, his death helped the world realize is so great, but give it all back to have him back for another day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in hindsight, going through that experience, I mean, that really happened at a time, like for me as an outsider looking in, that whole thing really happened. It's this sort of awakening that mental health was taking now in a bigger role in hockey is a very professional men's hockey is a very masculine activity. Like it's very, very buried in masculinity and I'm sure sometimes toxic and I'm sure sometimes not. And I mean, you talk about coaches and you had these great positive experiences. I'm sure there's some negative ones and we don't have to, we don't have 100%. To unpack those necessarily, but I think that really opened up, you had Bell Let's Talk and you really started to have this conversation. How did you see a big shift between those things, like your hockey career and that culture beforehand? And sort of, did people start, was it a gradual change the same as everyone else, or what happened there for your teammates, the league?
That I saw in my 8 years in North America was, I was a Christian. When I left home, I was an atheist. We didn't grow up with faith. And when I went to Minot, North Dakota, I moved in with the pastor and his wife. And I became a Christian, and they were like, you don't have to come to church. You don't have to do anything. I actually started going to church just because I knew that they were going to the truck stop after for breakfast. I get steak and eggs. So I'd go sit through an hour of church and be like, oh my God. But I became a Christian. I was baptized and confirmed when I was 17 years old, and I went to college with that mentality. And I started going to church on my own and just kind of in my own little group by myself. And I taught Sunday school when I was at college. Every Sunday I'd have these two little guys that this boy and this girl, they were brother and sister. We had a small church on campus, and I got to teach Sunday school, and I didn't know anything. I just became a Christian. I had no idea what the hell I was even doing.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that I saw from the time that I turned pro, because everywhere that I went, I started a small little chapel, and there was like a faith chapel. And in Boston, we had a guy that came and did it. In Florida, we had a guy. And when I was in San Antonio, we had a guy that did it. And then in Manitoba, we did it. And in Vancouver, we did it. So I kind of started it with every team, and I was kind of the lead on that. And like nobody ever said anything, but one of the coolest things that I can tell you is my first year in Manitoba, we had that group, and that was a lockout year, and we had Kessler, we had Josh Green, Alex Auld, Nolan Baumgartner. We were loaded with talent. We had a great team and a lot of different personalities, and we would have like 17 guys come to chapel.
Yeah.
And we just have it after practice, and we just sit in there. And again, we were all belligerent idiots for the majority of the time, right? We're out at Earl's having beers and this and that, but it was our time to say reflect and thank, and we weren't bad people, but we just had fun. We were all just young punks, and we were doing what we were just enjoying life. And but for us to come to that and sit together for an hour and get in the Word, and then when that happened, I was playing in Sweden, and I caught and the news came through that happened, because it was Rick Rippon, Derek Bugard, and Wade Belak within like 4 months, I believe, from what I can remember. And it was like, holy smokes. And it was like, how many more guys are struggling with this? And it became, I don't want to say a pandemic, because a pandemic's bad. This isn't a pandemic. It's probably one of the most positive things that could come out of, think about people losing their life, like, and what they stood for, and the way it's impacted, the hockey world, professional sports, that, hey, having mental health is like having cancer. You don't get to pick it. You don't get in the line and say, hey, I want to be anxious.
Yeah.
I want to feel so shitty every day, and we can go down the line and all this stuff. And, transvestites, you can go to, like, I don't think people get up in the morning and say, I want to make my world harder.
Yeah.
No.
And, I believe in the Bible. I believe in Jesus. I believe in that. But I also believe that the biggest commandment is love thy neighbor. I don't care if somebody wants to be a tree, just love them. And if somebody, I was in a Bible study here in Minnesota with Jack Carlson. Remember Jack Carlson, big tough guy from the Minnesota North Stars back in the 80s. His brothers were in Slapshot. We had Aaron Broughton, Bill Butters, all these old hockey guys. And we're doing this Bible study, and then some newer guys, Eric Westrom, Jake Taylor. And we would sit in this room, and the amount of testosterone and toughness in this room, it would just be like, people would walk in and be like, what are you guys planning your next fight? No, we're having a Bible study. And people would like fall over, like, what the hell are you guys doing? But it's the biggest commandment to me is just love thy neighbor. It doesn't matter they don't need to fit in my box. And imagine what the world would do, and imagine how, hey dude, I'm struggling today. I need help. Just go have lunch with them. I know that's the way I take it. And, like I said, I'm dealing with it firsthand with my youngest son, and my wife's anxious. My wife had trouble sleeping and stuff. And I don't know. I don't understand. And all you do is just try to support and hear out. And, I'm not here to, I don't know if I can make it better, but just being an ear and knowing that he has somebody to fall on if he's going to fall, and being there for him. And, there's a lot of tough days. There's a lot of tough days. And, I've talked to my son Lincoln about Rick Rippon, and now he's got a picture of Rick Rippon on his phone, and, we show him his tribute videos and stuff like that. Like, Ripper was one of the best humans. And to me, like, I knew him for 3 years, and
so
wouldn't even thought for a second that he was struggling with anything.
So that was right around the time when the Winnipeg Jets came back to Winnipeg.
No. So I got to know Ripper around 2008. 2005, 2006 was a lockout year. He was in Regina, and then he came, and then we played parts of 3 years together in Vancouver and in Manitoba, and then I left for Europe. And was it 2011 or 2000?
So 2011 was the Jets when came back to Winnipeg.
Yeah. And then 2012
so it was announced already, and he was supposed to be on the Winnipeg Jets, and this happened like prior to the season. And that was a big shock for Winnipeggers. Like, we're all celebrating the team coming back to the city, right? And then we got these horrible news. And so with you being close, was there any signs of depression from Rick, where you guys saw something that, hey, he's struggling, or it was just, because some people are very open about their struggles and some just really bottle it in, and unfortunately it didn't end very well.
Yeah. Rip was the guy, like, we would be out for dinner and beers and stuff. We spent time together, but he wasn't an open book by any means. He didn't talk a lot. He was quiet, pretty reserved. Like, would do anything for anybody.
Yeah.
Just, put a smile on anybody's face the second you see him. He's just that kid, that guy. And no, like I said, I even looking back, it's like trying to see signs. Like I see my son do his things and some of his tendencies, and and that's the part where I say fake it till you make it. Like, we don't need to fake it anymore. You don't need to fake that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just must have got too much. And
I think that we're getting better at that as a society, and I think that as men we're getting better at it in a huge way in the last 10, 15 years. I think that we're understanding it's okay to do this. It's okay to feel this way. And we're still not there. There's always still work to do. We haven't cured cancer. We're not going to cure depression. And so it's one of those things that we're seeing it. And like, I've lived with people who were severely struggling with mental illness and mental health. And like, the more you experience it, the more you learn to pay attention to it. And also the more you become comfortable with it. And if you're comfortable with it and that person senses that level of comfort, that you learn a lot more, and you go through that experience together. Like your wife and your wife with anxiety and your son. And like, those are real experiences, and they don't have to be bad. They can bring you closer together, and you can get through them together, and you can learn from it. And you probably know more about mental health that you learned from your wife and your son than you ever knew before.
Tommy, among all the episodes we've recorded, there's one common theme, and that's getting therapy. We've talked about it lots.
Many, many times.
You had a really tough time making that first phone call. I had a tough time making that first phone call. I didn't even know if the person I was going to see was the right person, but you got to just try. Thank goodness we have a sponsor that makes it way easier now. BetterHelp has an online platform that allows you to fill out a questionnaire. They connect you with a therapist, and you get to communicate with them however you want. So whether that's text messaging, that's emails, that's through their app, that's video chats, you get all those options, and it makes it way less scary to be connected with someone. And if you're not into the person you talk to, they'll sign you another one right away. I've gotten assigned mine already, and I can't wait to use it. Like, by the time you hear this, I will have had my first session, and I'm super pumped to talk about it on the show.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it, and like, it's very easy to sign up. It took us maybe 5 minutes to sign up, and you answer just simple questions, and next thing you know, you got a message that you will be paired up with a therapist, and within the same day we got the therapist already, and the name and a message from them, and we were able to communicate with them. So it's extremely easy. So please go to BetterHelp.com. Yeah, that's the thing. BetterHelp.com/Quiet Riot Show, and you get to also enjoy 10% off for your first month if you sign up using this link. So again, right here, I'm going to be doing it from here. Yeah, it's BetterHelp.
Am I screwing it up?
.com/Quiet Riot Show. Yeah, sign up today, and you're not going to regret it, because I'm already enjoying it. Just the fact that we connected with a therapist.
Me too, man.
Thank you to BetterHelp for supporting this podcast.
100%, and it's funny because I get to coach here in my city and get to coach my kids, and I run a hockey camp, and I see tendencies of kids that do the same things, and those I don't like warning signs, and those are the kids, like for me, you get 132 kids come to my camp in 1 week. We're there 3 days, and like, I want to talk to every one of them, and I want to get to know them a little bit. But the ones that you see that have these tendencies that have things that, like, things my wife do or my son does, and it's like, all right, gotta dig on those kids just a little bit more, and make sure that they know they're loved and they're wanted, and they're appreciated for what they're doing, and that you're here for them. You're only a phone call away, or, you know, whatever it is. And as I'm going through this, and as I'm going through life with one teenager and soon to be a second teenager, it's like, there's kids that are so shitty. They're so shitty.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then there's parents that stick up for this shittiness, and it's like, you're raising shitty kids. What are they going to turn into?
Yeah.
They're going to turn to shitty adults. And it's like, it starts here. Like, it starts with us. Like, if my son did some of the things that his friends are doing, like, he'd get his ass kicked.
Yeah. And
like, I remember trying to pull that shit when I was at home. Like, it wasn't just a stern talking to. I got hit with a piece of wood. It was a different world.
Yeah, it was a different world. That's for sure.
Yeah, we've talked about really back in the day, the upbringing, it does have certain effect on us too. And we're, you know, I'm not saying my parents were shitty. They loved me and they did everything they could for me. But yes, like, there was a lot of those, I'll give you something to cry about, you know.
Totally.
like, get over it, you know. Why are you crying? Like, just get your shit done and fuck off.
Yep. Yeah,
and,
totally.
You know, so right now, like, we're obviously, I've caught myself doing certain things like my parents did. I was just like, oh, no, I need to stop that. Or my wife would be like, you sound just like your mom, which hurt the most. But so we're trying to do a little bit better with our kids, right? Obviously, than what we've had and what we learned. And so obviously you're doing the hockey camps right now, and you're trying to educate the kids too. How is it for you now? Because obviously as a child you attended some hockey camps. Was there stuff talked about it during those camps, like what you're trying to teach right now, or is it completely different what it was?
It was completely, to me, like, I remember I went to the Canadian professional hockey schools. Like, I remember doing those ones the majority of the time, and I just remember skating around circles. Like, there was nothing. There was no, like, really instruction. It was just skate around and here's some drills. And now, like, you know, my camps, and what I'll say is, like, back to, like, the parents and whatever we're doing, whether it's a coach, because early in my career I had shitty like, I had some awful coaches that I wouldn't piss on those guys if they were on fire. And these guys, and you learn, and then I had some great coaches. Mike Sullivan, who's coaching Pittsburgh right now, I got him for a year, and I'm telling you, like, I would have ran through a wall for Mike Sullivan. Probably still would. If Mike called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, Lee, I need you to run through a window. Would you do it?" Yeah, sure, whatever you need. And I just do it. Like, he was that coach. And when you know better, you do better. And, like, when you say you're trying to stop, you know, like, my parents are my parents. They're fine. They love me. They gave me the opportunity to do things, and they paid for things. They are who they are. We don't even really talk to them anymore. But at the end of the day, it's I'm not going to do that to my kids. Like, when I coach my son, I'm not going to be an asshole to my son. Mm-hmm. He's going to play just like everybody else. He's going to be held to the same standards, same accountability. If that guy makes a mistake, if my son makes a mistake, we're going to talk to them the same. And with my hockey camps is, like I said, we go into small groups. We go into small, like, we'll have 30 kids on the ice, and I'll have 5 coaches on the ice with me, and we're doing 5 different drills. And then they'll just go and they'll hit every coach, and we'll do a skill development in each section of the ice, and whatever it is. But my coaches, I tell my coach, I said, I'm not so much concerned about you teaching the skill as much as I am you creating a relationship with that young kid.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the game ends for everybody. It's going to end for Connor McDavid, right? The game's going to end. What relationships did you build? How did you feel when you played? Like, I'm moving my son out of our association this year. He's played 3 years of traveling hockey in our association here. He's had one coach that he quit hockey after 1 year because he was like, I don't want to play for that guy. And the last 2 years he's had the same guy. It's been a negative experience. He cries. He comes home and he cries. Is it him or is it the coach? I don't know. But we're moving him out of our association because, again, I'm not banking on any of my kids playing college hockey or juniors or pro. I want them to love the game, become a better human being, the attributes that the game of hockey have taught me, hockey's given me kind of everything in my world. And then the attributes and the structure and the culture and the way I act and who I am and the accountability that I have in my life has come from a game. And I've had good people push me in that direction and allow me to fail and succeed and at the same time and be taught how to do it. Like, nobody's telling me that I couldn't do it, but they're saying, hey, you might want to try something different because that's not working.
Yeah.
And that's what I do with my kids at my camp. And again, like I tell the kids, hey, the easy part's the hockey part. We're going to get better at hockey. The hard part is making good human beings.
That's right.
And making sure that they leave the rink and they're a better person and they're better off for being there for the 2 hours that they're with our group. And they're going to go out and they're not going to be assholes. They're not going to go ding dong ditching houses and throwing eggs on cars and houses. They're going to go out there and they're going to try to do the opposite.
Yeah.
And do you feel like a lot of that has come, or is it, I would assume a lot of that has been influenced and come from your faith. I would assume that you're now pre-Christian, post-Christian for you, your mentality about humility and love and kindness and all those I grew up in a Christian home, and so I have a big background with that. My family is still, my parents and brothers are all still very actively involved in their churches and everything.
Yeah.
How much of that to you was sort of the foundation of how your mentality is today about how you handle these things? So whether that be coaching, parenting, I mean, in the end, you're a role model, you're a coach, you're a parent. Those are almost all the same things to a certain extent.
Yeah. I would say 100% of it. Like I use the phrase to the kids and that I coach and anybody that listen, like, anything that's worth doing is going to be hard. Mm-hmm. Like, it's going to be hard to do. And before I was a Christian, like, life was, I could do whatever I wanted. Like, I got caught stealing in Ottawa at a hockey tournament. Like, I was an ass. And I moved away and I moved into this house where there was no yelling, there was no screaming. I was pissed off. I couldn't swear. Like, I called my dad. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I want to get out of here. And at the end of the day, it was like within 3 days, my dad said, all right, I got a spot where you come home. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going to stay here. And to this day, I was baptized, confirmed. My billet family and another family from Minot are my godparents. And my godparents are actually coming this week to visit my family. And in all honesty, my godparents are like grandma and grandpa to my kids. Mm-hmm. They're like my parents. And they taught me, like, I was an abrasive, like, non-touchy. Like, I was really probably, ask people, probably a shitty person. But like, growing up and like literally pretty influential year in my world, 17, 18 years old, living in a family and watching them interact and love each other. And like, my godmom would always be like, you need to touch nice. Like, you can't be an animal all the time. And I'd walk around like Bam Bam, like smacking the kids and stuff. And like, you can't do that. Like, but 100%, I truly believe a lot of who I am. And I tell them all the time, like, I grew up living with them. You know, like, I grew up big time living with them, and they've been in my life for almost 20 years, 30 years. I'll be 46. I said, yeah, so almost 30 years. And yeah, most influential people in my world for sure. And, you know, trying to eliminate the nonsense that was happening in my home.
Yeah.
To my kids and stop being that dad or that family and emulate what they were doing. Cause I was like, this seems way better.
Yeah.
And way more enjoyable. But yeah, that's a great question. Like, I would say, yeah, all of it. Like, cause again, I think at the end of the day, if I would have stayed the person I was, I probably wouldn't even be giving back. I'd just be like, I don't give a shit about any of this stuff. I don't care how kids act. But, you know, to me, it's like, you know, I watch the way things are moving and the way things are going, and I want our world to be better. I want our kids to be better. I want our coaches to be better. Like, we had coaches that verbally abuse kids that I'm like, stop, you can't. Like, it's not 1980.
Yeah, I'm sure that's still happening all the time.
100%. And you look at the teams in the NHL. Listen to Paul Maurice talk, the Stanley Cup Finals. Look at the Paul Maurice talk. Listen to Cooper talk from Tampa Bay. Like, listen to the way he talks to these players. Like, I played for Keenan and Vigneault and Bill Armstrong, and they're complete fucking idiots. And then he played for a guy like Mike Sullivan, who's like, hey, we find value in everything that you do, and we're gonna take advantage of that. It was great. Like, and you want to be that person for those kids. You don't want to be the guy that, you know, and I've coached 10 years, and I've got kids that I've coached 10 years ago that still to this day reach out to me. They text me, hey coach, what's going on? Can you play golf? Can you do this? And I coached college hockey when I got done playing, and coached 2 years of college hockey. And these kids, I'll run into them at the rink, and they'll just come and hug me, and we'll sit down and we'll chat, we'll catch up. And again, like, I'm sitting there going, like, the head coach on that team was one of those guys that didn't treat the kids right. Mm-hmm. And I don't think these kids would go out of their way to say hi to them.
Yeah. Where's the balance between aggression and motivation in that sense with coaches? Like, you've had a lot of different coaches, and we see it. We only see it from the sidelines and on TV. We see so-and-so screaming his face off. We see so-and-so who's a little more calm. And like, we see the media version of the coaches. You see the back room, you see the locker room, the chain, like, you see all of that. Where is the balance between driving energy and aggression and it crossing a line into, like, okay, this is abusive and this is not a healthy relationship?
I think that the mentality of the athletes changed a lot since my rookie year in 2000. The mentality of the athlete was, I need to be pushed, because, like, I think the athletes now, for the majority of them and the great ones, they don't need motivation. They just go do their stuff. When I was a rookie in 2000, I remember Keenan coming in, and we were playing somebody, I can't remember, we were at Boston Garden, and one of our players blocked a shot on a penalty kill. End of the second period, and he blocked a shot right off the ankle. So he comes hobbling to the bench, and he's trying to walk it off. And Keenan wants him to go back out for like the last 20 seconds because he was one of our best penalty killers. Dixon Ward, one of our best penalty killers. And he's like, I can't go, like, I can't walk. And he's trying to walk it off, and he's on the tunnel to the locker room. He's trying to walk it off. He's like, Mike, I can't go. Like, what do you want me to do? And Mike got mad. He was like, fucking pussy, and this and that. And I was just like, oh. So we went into the locker room in between periods, and Keenan comes in, and he calls Dixon out right in front of the whole group, said, that's a long way from the fucking heart. That's a pussy move, and this and that. And, you know, and Wardle gets up and he kind of chases him, and a couple of guys grabbed him, and Keenan, like, I sat by the door, and Keenan, as he was walking out, he's the biggest grin on his face, and he's like, got the boys going. And his mentality was, and it took me a little bit to figure out what his mentality was. And again, a lot like Herb Brooks with the Olympic team, the 80 Olympic team. If they hate me so much, they're going to bond together over it. Yeah. And then they're going to be better. They're going to play better. They're going to do this. Like, I played for Mark Messier over in Germany for Team Canada in a Deutschland Cup. And I asked Mark Messier when they won in 94 with the Rangers, and Keenan was a coach. He told me that they locked him out of the locker room after Game 6 of the semifinals against Jersey, and they didn't allow him in during the Stanley Cup Finals. They were just done with him. Yeah. And they changed themselves, and they did their stuff. Like, he benched Brian Leach in like Game 5 or 6 or whatever it was. I can't remember the whole story, but he was like, we couldn't stand him. Yeah. And then he won a cup and he got fired. Like, he was gone that summer. Yeah. So, and now I think that doesn't happen. And I think I always say to the coaches that I work with and the coaches that I do stuff with, if you need to go into a locker room and swear and yell and curse to motivate your players, you're probably not very good at it. Mm. Right? So I believe that those coaches, like, there's a clip out there of Paul Maurice talking to the Florida Panthers after they won Game 4 against Carolina. And he just came in and, like, it gave me goosebumps what he said. If you guys check it out, he kind of just says, he goes, guys, this isn't even about the trophy that we're going to compete for next round. It's about the memories that we're going to make for a lifetime. Like, this is going to be the greatest time of our life that we're going to spend the next 2 weeks together trying to win this thing. And like right now I'm getting hair on my, and I talk about like no F words, no nothing. And then at the end he goes, can't wait to see you fuckers tomorrow, and walks out, and the boys get all crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
But like, that's the difference, right? Like, and Maurice has been around since 2000. Like, he was the youngest head coach, one of the youngest head coach, and he's been doing this forever and ever and ever. And I was sad to see him leave Winnipeg.
Yeah.
But I think that, like he said, his voice just wore out, his message wore out on those guys. They were together so long. But I think that's to me, that's the difference. If you can motivate guys without being an asshole, if you can motivate the players without being an asshole and making somebody feel like shit, you're going to get so much more out of your player.
Yeah. Just this is a little bit different sport, but my son is doing Taekwondo, and he just had his first sparring competition like a month ago or so. And he had 3 rounds. The third round, he got his ass whooped, like hard. Like he quit. He didn't finish his thing because he was out of breath and everything. So that was like this was the first time that I was involved with any like a little more serious competition. He's not interested in hockey, so I didn't want to push him. He likes doing this, and so it was just a really nice experience for me. And I'm like, kind of wanted to be just like step in, like start yelling, like, hey, let's go, you got this, but like I see that the coach's taking care of that, so I'm like, and the coach was actually really nice. He kind of gave him a little boost, gave him some positive messages. And then my son has asthma, so my son's like, oh, I'm feeling out of breath. Like, okay, let's get you the puffer, even though it wouldn't help because it takes like 10 minutes to kick in, but it's a mental thing. But it was just like his coach was really like encouraging him and working him out. And it was such a nice feeling to see that he was there for him. And so after he quit, it was just like, he was defeated. He was crying. Like you could tell like he's had enough. So I'm just like, okay, this is a real test. Like, does he want to continue, or is he going to throw in the towel? And so we waited until he was a little bit calmer. I'm like, so what did you think? He's like, I got my butt kicked. I'm like, yeah, you did. And I was like, that's okay. Like, there's always one winner, one loser, and it's okay. You tried your best. He's like, yeah, I want to keep going. I want to keep practicing. I'm like, there you go. So it was just nice to see that the coach really encouraged him. And he's, like I talked to Glenn about this, and Glenn's, he knows some people too that are like tough Taekwondo masters. And, he told me like they wouldn't let him quit. I'm like, I get it, but like, this was nice. Like I love the tough love sometimes, but this is also, it's really nice to see that encouragement for kids, because sometimes they just need that love, right? Like just that understanding that, hey, it's okay. You'll do better.
And again, like great coaches, to me, the great coaches, like win or lose, right? Like you're learning something. And if when you lose, all it is you guys are shitty and you guys suck and you guys don't deserve to do, like, it wears on you, and you start to believe it. It's you hear it often enough, you become it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I've coached teams where we had no business being where we were and doing what we were doing, but the idea is build these kids up, make them feel like they can conquer the world. Mm-hmm. Win or lose, we could lose 10-1, and we come and get not our best game, guys, but we did these 3 things really, really good. These 3 things, let's make sure we get better at. Like we get better at these 3 things. And we get better at, and we continue to do these 3 things. Next time, maybe it's a 5-goal game instead of a 10-goal game, or whatever it is, right? It's the process of getting better. And if you continually tell kids how shitty they are and how bad they are, or a player how good or bad they are, they're going to end up just believing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and adults are no different.
Yeah.
100%, totally. Like I'm in sales. You tell the guy in the other room that he's terrible at sales. Like, what are you doing here? Never going to sell anything.
No.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And you'll never figure out how.
Right. And everybody's got their own, everybody brings something different to the table. This kid's a square peg. You can't put him in a round hole. You got to find a square hole or a square place for him to be.
Yeah.
And as a coach, as an owner of a company, as anybody, and you're taking care of people, you're a psychiatrist. You need to figure out the hockey team that I coach had 15 kids. I know what I can do to push every one of those kids, and each one is so different. One kid I can get into his face and have a real serious conversation with. The other kid, I got to massage him and tell him, "Oh, you're so great," and you're, you know, right after he just turned one over and now we're down 2-0. Got to go down and got to massage it. You're doing great. You're fine. You know, like one kid I can come off and he wants to hear about it. And, hey, you can't be doing that. Like, let's go. But at the end of the day, the message is that, like, I have a rule: for every negative thing that you tell somebody, there better be 5 positive things that started before or after coming. Has to be.
Yeah. Well, and you got to think there always is. If you're looking for them, there always is 5. You know, leading people, being a manager, an owner, or a salesperson, or whatever you are, like, it's all about how you communicate. The most successful salespeople know how to communicate with someone the way they want to be communicated to.
Totally.
And if you do that and you become versatile enough to dial that in with people, coaching's no different. Coaching, I would assume, is no different.
Yep.
You'll get the best out of each of those people because all 20 of those people have 20 of their own ways that they prefer to do things, or that you can get the best out of them.
Yep.
Which in turn, and we have them. I have those myself. Tommy's got them. You've got, like, the better we can dial that in with our relationships and in whatever facet they are, the healthier everybody is coming out of it.
100%.
Why don't we take a little break and then we'll come back, and I'd like to talk to you about your playing career and how it was in North America versus Europe a little bit. So
Awesome.
Hey, Tommy.
Hey, Tim.
I heard that one of our sponsors got sold to new ownership.
That's right. And if you guys noticed, we didn't have them for last month, but they're back.
They're back. The pizza oven is back. They have new ownership. They have new menu items as well as all the old classics. You tried one of the new ones, or a couple of them.
I tried the chicken tandoori pizza, and it was absolutely fantastic.
You brought it to my house, and I smelled it, and it smelled unreal.
Yeah, you were on your keto.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, so it was fantastic. It was so good.
Awesome. So they've got a bunch of new menu items, and they've been generous enough to sponsor our show on an ongoing basis again. And so thank you, Pizza Oven. For those of you not in Winnipeg, you don't get to enjoy it. Too bad. They're located at 1215 Henderson Highway, Unit D in Winnipeg. You can give them a call, 204-949-3000. Also, we have a promo code that you can use if you order online through their website, and that is QRS15, QRS15, and you'll get 15% off your Pizza Oven orders. So everybody's still loving the Pizza Oven.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, get your pies. And I know they have lots of game day specials as well for the Bombers, the NFL, and the Jets as well. So make sure you guys check them out. So, you obviously had to look up your stats before the show. And what it was like to play in North America and then in Europe. Because obviously the ice size right away, that's a big difference too. But what about the mentality of the players in North America and in Europe? Is there like a big difference between them, or is it pretty much the same thing?
When I went over, so the reason why I went over, I played 8 years over in North America here, and my son was born in July of 2007. So the 2007-2008 season was my first year in Europe, and I was to the point in my career where I was sick of getting called up, sent down, and I wanted to spend time with my family on all the nights, or as much as I could, rather than going, getting called up, being up in Boston or in Vancouver, and my family being in Manitoba. So when I went over there, it was like I went to Mars. Like, in all honesty, it was like I went to Mars. I got there, and practices were, and again, where I went to a place called Skellefteå, and it's about an hour and a half from the Arctic Circle in Sweden. So I got there in August 10th, I think I got there, and I didn't have any idea what the hell I was doing. I got there, I didn't even have Swedish money. I brought some American money and a credit card, and they wouldn't take any of it. So I was like, well, what the hell am I going to do now? So I asked the team, I said, I need some money. And they gave me some money. They gave me an advance on some payment. So I got some money, got everything set up. But I remember the first day that I was there, I went to sleep. And I went to sleep, time changing a whole bit. And I set my alarm because we had practice the next morning. And obviously with the time change, I woke up at like 3:00 in the morning, and it was bright as day outside. I'm like, holy shit, I missed practice. What the fuck? Well, I get up and I'm in my apartment. I'm trying to figure things out. I'm trying to find my phone, trying to figure out what time it is. It says 3:00, and I'm sitting there going like, why in the it's like, I didn't realize that the sun's out all we're
night.
an hour and a half from the Arctic Circle. So shocker there. But then we started working and trying, and we had to be there in August. Our season started in mid-September, about a month before the NHL season. But the mindset of the team that I went to, they were relegated. So in the Swedish league and in Europe, if you don't finish in the top 10 out of 12 or something, the bottom 2 teams get relegated like they do in soccer.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that anymore. I think they have their 12 teams or 14 teams that they have there, and they don't move anymore. But when I was there, they did this. So we just came up from the Elitserien, from Allsvenska League to the Elitserien, which is a top league in Sweden. And there was 10 teams at the time in the league. So 12 teams. And there was like 7 or 8 reporters that like picked Skellefteå to finish last. And I was obviously didn't know Swedish, and these guys were talking about it, and they were kind of laughing. They thought it was like a big joke. And I'm like, guys, like, what do you mean this fucking big joke? We're not finishing last. Like, there's no way. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, the mindset and the mentality of the team at that time was like, not okay. So I literally cut that out and I put it on my fridge at my apartment. And every day was something new. Like, I would go to the rink and we'd have pregame meals. And I remember pregame meals in North America. You had your chicken, you had your pasta, a couple different sauces, and you go play your game. You have a nap, play your game. I remember we were in Stockholm and I went for pregame. We were having a pregame meal and they were serving eggs and bacon. And I was like, what are we doing?
Protein.
Eggs and bacon. And then one was like a hash brown casserole they had one time. And I was like, one time it was like pickled herring. I was just like, I don't like, this isn't good. Like, so then I was like, no, we need to eat this and this. So when and again, like Michael Renberg, remember Legion of Doom, Philadelphia Flyers? So Michael Renberg was our captain that year. And I sat beside him in the locker room and I was like, doesn't this stuff piss you off? And he's like, Lee, he goes, I'm just really done. Like, I had my time in the NHL. I'm just playing a year or 2 here and I'm done. That's fucking bullshit. Like, let's go. Like, let's play. But that was the mentality. I remember we got home off the road one time and we just got our asses kicked, and we'd take these little puddle jumper planes throughout Sweden. Sweden's not very big. And we got home, we got back to the rink at about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and we were unpacking our gear. And one of the guys turns the music on. And I walked over and I fucking smacked the machine and I turned it off. And I said, we don't win, we don't get fucking music. Fuck off. And I was just like, this is like, we're changing the culture. Like, this isn't okay. And at this point in time, like, I was kind of leading the team in scoring, and like Renberg was our captain, wasn't really saying a whole lot, wasn't really, like, he just wanted to be done, I think.
Yeah.
So we ended up making the playoffs that year, and we beat the top team in the league 1 game in a best of 7, which was a huge deal for our city. And from there on, like, that team's been one of the perennial favorites in Skellefteå, in the Swedish League. They've won 2 or 3 gold medals since 2008. They've been in the finals probably 5 or 6 times. They've had great coaches come in, and the accountability and the culture and the structures changed. From there, I went to Färjestad in the Swedish Elite League, and I won a championship the next year, my second year in Sweden. And that team had more of those guys that, you know, the culture guys and structure, where, you know, there wasn't a lot of screwing around. Like, when you showed up the rink, you worked, and there's a reason why we won a championship.
Yeah, they took it more serious. Yeah, they wanted to.
Totally, and they had more professional players, and they'd been in the Swedish Elite League for many years, where Skellefteå still had those guys that were in the Allsvenska. Mm-hmm. I remember trying to take a nap, and my roommate's typing on his computer. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Take a nap. He goes, I'm working. Like, this isn't your job? Like, well, no, I got another job. And I'm like, what the fuck? Go work in the lobby. But yeah, it was, I was in Sweden. Like, my first year in Sweden was really weird, was really different. And from there on, like, when I played in Switzerland, I played for a guy, Larry Harris, who he's from Toronto, Ontario. And he had North American culture. So we worked hard. He was like very straight and narrow. Like, this is how we're doing things. We went in there one day, our leadership crew went in there, and we said, "Hey, Larry, the boys are pretty tired. We could really use a day off." And Larry looks at us. He goes, "I appreciate you guys coming here. This is great. I'm really glad you guys are advocating for the group." And because I just want you guys to realize this isn't a democracy. It's a fucking dictatorship. Go get your shit on. No, we put our gear on, went out for practice.
Yeah.
But again, like, that was the culture. Like, hey, we're going to get our work done and then you guys can go rest. That's fine. And I played 1 year in Germany. Not even 1 year, about 3/4 of a year, 2/3 of a year I played in Germany. And I didn't enjoy it there. They had the concept, the thought process that more is better. Yeah. So we were doing 4-a-days. We'd be on the ice in the morning, then we'd have a workout, then we'd go home, we'd come back, we'd have another ice session and another workout. And I was like, well, this is dumb. Like, why don't we just come here for 2 hours in the morning, have a good skate, workout, and just let us be. Like, we don't need to be here 4 times. And then in Finland, I played 1 year or about half a year in Finland. And Finland, all we did was I felt like I was a cross-country runner. That's all we did. We ran every day.
Oh, wow.
And at 6'3", 215 pounds and bad knees, and I'm like, I'm just going to hop on the bike. No, you got to go for a run. I'd be like, so I didn't last very long there. I ended up going back to Switzerland after that.
Was that the coach, or was that the
hockey
culture,
the Finnish
there?
Mentality?
Okay.
The Finnish guys that come to North America that I played with, they were always running. Yeah. North Americans, they get on the bike. It's less, it's less compact on your body, less impact on your body. But like the Europeans, like especially the Finnish guys, all they want to do is run.
Yeah. So as far as mental health in the hockey industry, like was Europe, I guess your time in Europe, was it really talked about, promoted, or was it a little more laid back?
So the mental health stuff, like for me, it was easy because, again, anytime you go to a hockey team, you've got 25 built-in buddies, right? So you just go into a locker room. I know my wife struggled a lot, especially when we were in Sweden. There was only one other import allowed, non-European import. So we could have guys from Russia, we could have guys from Czech, but only 2 North Americans. So that was real difficult for her. But for me, like while I was there, it was never a pressing issue. Mm-hmm. Again, there's a language barrier. And again, I don't know how much they talked about it. I don't know. I know now there's been a couple guys that have gotten in trouble that some of the guys have talked to me about, guys that a goalie coach that I had when I was over there, he got in trouble for saying something and about mental health and how it's impacting the game. So there's definitely been a conversation over there in the latter years. It wasn't, like I said, like it wasn't a relevant thing to be talking about here or there.
Yeah.
When I was still playing, even like in 2013, it still wasn't what it is now. And I think it's great. Like I truly believe we could have saved a lot of lives in all the professional sports if we could have implemented these things at an earlier time.
So in being a pro hockey player, obviously there's players that move around more often than not. Some players stick around with the same team, and that's cool. But like, how much of an impact does it have you kind of touched on it a little bit, but on your relationship with your wife, with your family, whether even if you're close with your parents or not, there's still some big pressure and mental exhaustion on you as trying to do your work, because that was your work, being a pro hockey player. But you have to be moving around, like it's a new environment for you, for your wife, for your kids.
Right.
Like that must have been really hard to have a relationship while trying to do your work.
It was way more difficult on my wife. Like she was the one that got there. Like I would always leave probably 3 or 4 weeks before they would come, because they'd want us there in August.
Yep.
And she wouldn't come till the season, and that always stunk being away from the kids and my wife. But I just would go out to eat. I'd go with the guys, go out and eat, get some cereal for breakfast. Like, It was easy. Like when she got there and the shopping and the baby stuff and taking care of the kids and finding schools and all this stuff, like she was amazing at that. She took care of all that. And I know she dreaded it. And I wish that we could go back and visit all the places that we played in, just so she could appreciate what we got to do. Yeah. Because when we were there, she didn't get to appreciate it. She was, making pregame meals. She was taking care of the kids, feeding the kids, driving them here, driving there, listening to my bullshit. Like just all the stuff, right? So, and we lived in some amazing spots and with some amazing people. And for us, when we'd come home in the summer, we'd have 3, 4, 5 months where we'd have to try to figure out how to do 12 months of visiting with people and our friends and our family in 4 or 5 months. And it got hard and it got difficult. And the relationship part of it, like some relationships were, they became stressed because, well, you're not giving us any time. I'm like, well, what do you want us to do? Like, we've only got so many days here and I got to train. I got to get ready for next season. We can't go on a 4-month vacation here. So the relationship, like my wife's brother also deals with mental health stuff. And when we were my first year over in Europe, in Sweden, there was an 8-hour time change. And at 3:00 every day, it was Yahoo Messenger. Way back then, we didn't have all the tools that we have now, but Yahoo Messenger. And like, she would be like, she couldn't sleep some days. Like we had my oldest son, he's going to be 16 at the end of July. He was 4 months old. And she was like so enthralled with him and trying to take care of him. And then at the same time, trying to take care of her brother and make sure that he's still alive and he's not doing things that he shouldn't be doing. And if that call didn't come in at 3:00 that afternoon, like she'd be worrying, like it would like the amount of anxiety and stuff that she had to deal with, like, especially being so far away. And, I'm sure the whole family's now at a point that, hey, we've come to grips and acceptance of what we have. And if we get that phone call, it is what it is. We're going to be sad, but we can't, like, my in-laws can't live their whole life waiting for this phone call and just dreading it, right? They have to they're retired. They want to go travel. They want to do all this stuff. And you can't just sit there and focus on this. No, because you're going to ruin your life. Like you need to enjoy your world too.
Yeah, and you need to feel like you're providing as much as you can provide, because in the end you have to feel either way. You have to feel like you loved and you cared and you were kind and willing and all those things. But also, like, what value is it if you've spent all that time doing that and everything else is suffering because of it? It's all good to suffer on people, like to suffer, have certain areas of your life suffer temporarily or for time periods to get people through the biggest, to get them to the top of the hill or as close as you can get them there. But in the end, they have to decide to get there on their own, and you can't be the reason that you can't be the only reason that they're going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's too much pressure, and it's too much pressure on everybody.
Yeah. And I have 2 younger brothers that have gotten their fair share of trouble in Winnipeg and stuff like that. And one worked for Glenn Damon. And at some point you have to stop enabling.
Yeah.
Like I can't make you get better. You need to get better. You want to need to get better before we can help. And it's the fact that, no matter what happened or what they did or how it happened, or, we were always there to be a cushion for their fall. It's like, no, let them hit the bottom. Let it hurt a little bit. Like, it's got to sting.
Yeah.
And if it stings, if it doesn't sting hard enough, they'll do it again. If it stings real hard and they don't feel like getting up, well, I don't know. And you don't want to say just give up or do that, but you've got to put things in place. You've got to, like, I've got friends a couple of my friends here in Minnesota where I live, they've checked themselves into Hazelden, which is one of the biggest alcohol drug rehab centers in the world. And they've hit rock bottom, right? And I've watched them. We've as a family, we've watched them, and we don't sit there and go, hey, great job, do this, do that. We're not that enabling. We don't want to enable them, but now they've got the help that they need. Now we're going to support them. Now we're going to support the shit out of them, and we're going to try to hold them accountable. If we see something that we'll talk to them about it, and hey, why are we doing this?
Yeah. And that's the role. It's a great role to play. And I'm so grateful that people have people to do that with. Mm-hmm. Some people don't have anybody and don't have that support system to lean into when it's needed. Yeah. But it's a support system, not a solution system. Like, you can't
100%.
Yeah. And if you guys 100%. Aren't recharged and your marriage isn't tight and your relationship with your family isn't tight, what good can you do for anybody else? Your foundation has to be solid. And if your foundation's solid, then you can give a little and you can help. But it's a support piece.
But again, at the end of the day, like, we always, as a Christian, you sit there and how do you spread God's word? Like, act like God, like act like Jesus. Be, if I'm walking around and I'm slurring my speech and I'm tripping over, and I'm drunk every day or whatever the case may be, it's like, how are you being? And that, hey, I have my beers. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not on my soapbox here by any way, shape, or form. Like, I've made plenty of stupid decisions and mistakes, and you own them and you live with them. But, you try to be a good human, try to be a good Christian, and whatever it is that you believe in, do it the best you can.
Yeah, that's 100%. A great. I think that's a great message to leave on, and. Thank you so much for being on today, Lee. That's awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys.
For making time for us and for making time for all this and the message that I think we all feel is very important. And these conversations are very important. You're a super interesting guy, and I wish you all the best and your family and your kids and just everything you do. And I hope everything's awesome for you as often as possible.
It's really nice to see you that you're still involved with hockey, even though you're not playing it professionally. You're coaching right now, and you're coaching your son. That's amazing. So you're still staying involved with the profession. So kudos to you. I have a question for you. When do you visit Winnipeg again?
I don't know when the next time we get. My wife and I, we were just invited to go to Australia. Okay. There's a U.S. Canada Hockey Summit Series that they're doing there. NHL alumni guys, current pro guys. So we're going to play 5 games over 14 days in Australia. So we leave July 4th for that, and we're going for 2 weeks. So
it's awesome.
It's good. I've never been to Australia. I don't think I would ever go, and a large portion of the trip's getting picked up by these guys. So I think it's awesome. So we're gonna do that. As far as Winnipeg goes,
well, basically just wanted to say, like, if you're in the neighborhood, because I know.
Well, I stay at Glenn's when I come there.
Yeah. So I'm just 4 houses down. So make sure you come for a visit.
Yes.
We'll exchange after the show addresses, because I do have a one of these mugs for you as well.
Awesome.
It's our show mug, and so I'm going to send it to you. Just a little thank you for being on our show. So again,
I appreciate it.
Congratulations with everything that you're doing right now after the hockey's been done, but you seem like you got your shit together, and you've had your shit together too, which is awesome.
Everybody.
That's right. Yeah.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Fake it. Yeah. Keep faking it. You're doing a great job. So, but thank you very much again, and have a great rest of the day.
Yeah.
See you later, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
All Quiet Riot Show episodes have been recorded and produced by SuverMedia. If you think you have an idea for a podcast but don't have the space or proper equipment, please visit SuverMedia.com for more information. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please hit the follow button and leave us a review if the platform you are listening on allows you to do so. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Quiet Riot Show, and follow us on the Instagram page @QuietRiotShow. Please share this episode with others that may be interested in these topics. If you know anyone that would enjoy these topics, feel free to share our podcast with them. Also, let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch with us in the comments on our channel and social media, or send us an email to quietriotshow@gmail.com.